Ndeya, Anuki, Wahu, Amepa, Paut, Upa, Paut, Kawun, Wahu, Ame, Ndeya, Nakokado, Najo, Ame, Kasam, Empa, Paut, Uchabo, Ame, Bushkasun, Nakokado, Kawan, Kalal, Pafa, Nakokado, Jawepa, Paut, Ame wase ame aratni kaun maye bakoi jawe pa paut anuki abedie nafashni pa paut kaun anuki pa paut kadon nakuk kadon pa paut amul nakuk amul. That's just the first short rendition of Patakyud. We have other prayers included in there, but it would take up pretty much part of the class if we went into all of it. But again, welcome to our question answer class, stroke topic class. Okay, the topic today is referred to as, or is called, You Are Judged as a Species. And that was inspired from reading several books from the Gospel of Yanun to the Sacred Feminine, which was referring to certain things, aspects in there. I thought it'd be like a good topic class to select because of what was being said. Also from the Master's Secret. So those who don't have it or do have it and you want to follow along, the Master's Secret part, Kamkaz, is called Salvation. You can see that here on the screen. Okay, that's the Master Secret Tankaz that you can buy in the store. We also have Pa Shajar Shalil Haya, the Tree of Life. Okay, again, it can be purchased in the store. And the last one, which is Why No Help from Above. This is all the Master Secrets, by the way. Yeah, all of the Master Secrets. Judgment Upon the Adamite, series number 4, series number 17, and series number 14. Okay, so again, I greet you again, digital world, and also those in the physical in our store at nashat.co.uk. Please check out our links on OSM. That's part of also the collaboration with OSM Vision. We have question answer classes there. You can also find us on YouTube platform, Zoom platform, is it TikTok? The other one TikTok only? Or is it the other one? Can't remember. TikTok, innit? Yeah. Okay, so there's various platforms where you can find ourselves, brothers and sisters around the world in the States. Facebook, of course, you can check us on Facebook, okay, for this information as taught by Partner Bab Yanun. Okay, so as I said, my name is Usieka Reye. I'm a student teacher of the Master Teacher, and today's topic will be You Are Judged as a Species. So, question I'm going to put towards to the audience, because I like to do this with interaction, is to you, what is a species? When you say species, what do you have in mind? Are you thinking horses, cats, or what are you thinking?
The living.
Hmm?
The living.
The living.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. So, well, I see you, Jose. Don't worry, we'll get to you.
Robert Zamal, please tell me the title again.
Yeah. How are you? How's
fantastic. What is the title of the class again?
The title for the class is I think it doesn't go any further. You're judged as a species.
You're judged as a species. Okay, thanks.
Okay, so let me just increase the volume on here. Yes, my sister, do you have, yes, I'm listening to you.
It's a collection of beings that maybe have similar characteristics.
Okay.
The human race, or you might get races from other planetary systems. You say that they're a race of species, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know, the animal humans.
Yeah, no.
I would say that's right.
That's right, yeah, because a species is just the traits and the collective consciousness of one particular creature or what is referred to as animals. So that makes up the species based on their genomes, etc. You with me? And how you can identify them. So yeah, that's the species. So now if I was to say to you, how does a species operate in the on the planet? How do they work? What makes them cohesive and naturally move on the planet and in harmony? What do they do? What do species do?
Survive.
Okay. What about harmony wise?
Oh,
Harmoniously. How do they survive harmoniously without impacting on the planet?
In an order, a order,
There's order. There's
a
an
order. Yes, a specific order.
Okay. That's right. Can I plug the thing in now? Will it come out? Okay. Could you just say that again, Arthur? We're just testing the audio. Say again.
A specific order.
It doesn't recognize it, does it? Remember that was that. That should be fine now. Okay, okay. So just bear with us a sec. Say again, Arthur.
A specific order.
Yeah, I don't think it's. All right, don't worry about it. Don't worry. We're gonna just use the mic. Anybody else? So if a species in its environment, how does it maintain itself? What does it do to keep the harmony in its environment?
Alignment,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
each other.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. Anybody else? Online? Species?
Live in natural nature.
Sorry?
They live according with the nature, law of nature.
Okay, so they live according to the laws of nature. Precisely right. Yes, we're getting there. We're getting there. No one's right or wrong. It's just there are many different aspects to why a species does what it does. So if someone's got their background noise on, could they just mute their mic, please? Okay, so in this class, we're going to explore that, and we're going to explore it from the angle of humans, because human beings, they think they're not part of the animal kingdom, so they eliminate themselves and don't call themselves as a species, but in effect, that we are species. You with me? And being that we're species, there's different types that exist within the human existence. Okay, so you have obviously we as Nagaru, there's 9 species of us, as Partner Babian has explained. There's 9 species of Nagaru, and then there's also different species, 8 species of Dravidians, 7 species, 6 going down to the Mukasu, 3 species going down to the Mangalu or the Asian race. Yeah, so there's species within the human existence. All right. Now, the thing is, each species, okay, as they conduct themselves in a way where some are a threat to the environment and some live harmoniously with the environment. So when we explore this, you begin to start to realize that if you look within ourselves as a species, as Nagaru, some of us are being in tune with the planet, some of us are working towards that cohesion with the planet, and there's some of us who are being totally removed from it because we are in somebody else's lifestyle and way of thinking, etc. So we're no longer behaving as how we're supposed to behave in natural nature. Okay, so I'm just going to read something from Master Secret's Tankaz Salvation. Okay, I hope that can be heard on Clubhouse and also Zoom. I hope it can be heard loudly. Right, so from verse 10, so from verse 11 of Tankaz Salvation, series number 14, it reads like this. Neither in turn does those who grafted and made them, actually, I'm going to read from verse 7. In fact, no, jump it. Verse 9. You are of the original race of people. Act as if you have some sense. The Mujwawu Jews, Muksasu Christians, and Muslamu Muslims do not grasp the Zalak essence of that which, or those who were planned on this planet long before the Adam and Eve, by whichever names. Neither in turn does those who grafted and made them grasp the zalak essence of that which or those who were grown Sayyim divine in Fatah al-Fatah, natural nature. Mankind can never grasp the natural nature of the original Afaf Re'e Ka'a, Zazaz African man. The unnatural nature of the human beast is just that, a heathen and a dabat beast. Nor does this human beast understand our true divine Fater al-Fatah, natural nature, thoroughly. Only what they breed of us as hybrids and neutrinoids, who as mulatto choose to join onto the Tananu dragonoids. We, Panataru, the overseers, have designated a genetic system, a scientific system of natural rules of nature, and they are on the outside of the natural rule. Yeah, I'll just pause there. How do you take that? Does that make sense? What I've just said. Does that make sense online to the audience online?
Rahubat.
Rahubat Bantuan. Does that make sense?
It makes very good sense.
Okay.
If I may tune into what they call Piscean age, what species means to me when I rearrange the letters of the spell. And then, you know, I am examining that chaos, you know, is, you know what I'm saying, amongst us in the time. It is a separation of agreeables and disagreeables. And that's what I have to offer as to what species means. Okay, well, tell for that input. That's like I said, everybody what has mentioned what they've mentioned is there's no wrong a way of looking at it or understanding it, because it literally is that. It's about cohesion. It's about being in tune with nature. It's about operating together as one, you know. So when we're talking about now being judged as a species, you start to now comprehend why Partner Babianon is teaching what he's teaching. Because as a species, that's how we're able to move cohesively with natural nature, because that's what we are of. So I'll give you today, okay, talking about natural nature and moving as a species. Today we were in Brixton, all right, and we were propagating. And it was one of those Love Fest LBGT plus things going on. But what you saw, okay, amongst human beings, the different species of human beings, Nagaru all the way to Mukasu, is how they've been unnaturalized. Do you see what I'm saying? Or how we as Nagaru and other Dravidians, etc., have so been unnaturalized to their natural nature that they're doing things not in accordance with who they really are. Don't get me wrong, in LGBT, there are people who are born naturally that way. And unfortunately, society and the media has promoted and pushed a certain narrative and certain negative. You know what I'm saying? More about sexualizing themselves and other aspects, you know what I mean? More promiscuity and those things. But when you meet somebody who's of natural intent, naturally that way, they don't go on the way it's just over exaggerated. Do you see what I'm saying? Because they want to fit in or they want to make a statement. You with me? And if you're really that way, you wouldn't need to make a statement. You see what I'm saying? Because that's your natural way. So there are natural people who are born that way naturally, who have got the spirit in them that naturally resonates on that frequency. So that makes them who they are. But then you also have those who are unnatural because they've chosen that lifestyle. Do you see what I'm saying? For whatever reason, promiscuity, you know, gender assignment, whatever they want to choose, exactly, child abuse, anything, do you know what I mean? Just to try and move and navigate those arenas, you know, for whatever intention and purposes. So essentially, when a species is looked upon by natural nature, now the thing is, what we don't realize is nature looks and actually analyzes us as a species by looking at our matrix. So if you are a person or a race of people who are moving away from your natural nature, Nature looks at you as a virus. You see what I'm saying? Just like your body. If you were to put something in your body or externally on your body will react. You with me? And then it will try to get rid of it, whether it's a cough, a cold, something, parasite, whatever. So likewise, if you're not in your natural nature, nature will seek to remove you. Yeah. So when I say, and I chose this type to judge the species, we as a people need to realize we're not individuals, we're not Jamaican, we're not African, we're a species. And if we as a race don't align with natural nature's rules, as I've just read out here, what natural nature will do is it will view you as a threat. And then natural nature will look to exterminate you. This is what they refer to as extinction. Do you see what I'm saying? When they talk about different species of creatures, like whether it's the polar bear or the panda or these other extinct animals, what's happening is that even though they're trying to preserve these animals like the panda bear, they're trying to preserve it. What Panda Babyanuna explained was that when you're trying to preserve a species, when its time is expired, you're actually affecting the ecosystem. You see what I'm saying? Because whatever it's doing, whether it's defecation or urination or whatever, or the gases that it emits, is actually unbalancing the ecology of the system. So now if you put into the grand scheme of things, the grandest picture, and you see that we as a race of people are not living in our natural nature, we're given us certain gases, we're given us certain energies that nature is saying, you've got to go. You with me? So now you look at the Mukasu being made unnatural. Most of us, or some of us now, are gravitating towards their lifestyle, living unnaturally. So nature will look at you, our ancestors will look at you and say, well, you're not living in accordance with nature. We have to remove you off the planet. So let me continue reading. Are there any questions so far before I continue?
Yes, Amal.
Yeah, sure. Yes, Jose.
Yes, Amal. Haptree just sent a message saying that there's no sound on Clubhouse. Please check.
Okay, my mic is on, so I don't know why. Let me see if the volume is up. Can I be heard on Clubhouse now? Yeah, Clubhouse is really a hit and miss. I'm gonna leave and go back in. Just bear with me for a second, audience. All right, let me leave. See, right, and then. All right, start event again. Nadum Moisar, but it's just Clubhouse as a way of okay, I've gone back in. So those who want to join Clubhouse can join again. See if that makes any difference. Otherwise, I do apologize. Okay, Haptui here. Haptui, can I be heard? Can I be heard, Haptui?
Yeah, you can be heard now.
Okay, it's probably me having to go in and come back out. All right. Tell that for letting me know. Okay, any questions before I continue?
Yes, Amal. A
Sure.
quick question. When we speak to live according to natural nature,
Yeah.
the first thing that comes to mind is wild animals, poisons, animals. What is the right behavior when it comes to the threat that is out there in nature?
Right. So as I explained, because Mother Nature or natural nature, you are part of that. Okay. You originally were grown as man. It says here, let me read it again. So um so you are of the original race of people. Okay. Act as if you have sense. Then it goes to verse 13. No, verse 11. It talks about the essence of you and the divinity of you. Okay. which is linked to natural nature. So natural nature will look at your energy, your matrix, and in that it protects you. Because what you have to realize is we are natural nature. So in having the right tones and the right vibration, the right frequency, it will actually protect you against certain things, certain eventualities, and be able to guide you. Natural nature will be able to even guide you. Because if you look at animals in their natural habitat, so for instance, I don't know if you've studied this before, but I remember watching it one time where there's going to be a earthquake in a geological area, and the ants actually moved away. Just what I'm saying, from that area, because ants are really in tune, obviously, with the geomagnetic field of the planet. And likewise, we should be as well, just like bees and other creatures, birds, etc. So we were migrating to other areas when there was going to be a natural disaster about to take place. Just like when it goes very quiet, when there's going to be a tsunami. If you study that as well, you find out that everything just goes quiet. And then the next thing you know, there's a massive wave and a tsunami comes and floods the area. So natural nature has a tendency of warning you of what is about to happen if there's going to be a natural disaster or there's going to be some kind of event. But because we're so out of tune with that natural part of us, these are the reasons why we do these practices. This is why we do the reasons why we do the chants. These are the reasons we do the meditations and the fasting, etc. Because then your field of energy will then resonate with the frequency of the planet under the F and the A and the C. And in that, natural nature will be able to guide you to safe places. Does that make sense?
Yes, I resonate with that. Yes, in my culture or my tribe, which I come from, on my dad's side, there are certain rituals that are performed in order to guarantee that snakes, such animals, don't attack humans. And
Okay.
how that relates to what you are saying, something that needs to be done as a spiritual or using medicine on people, or naturally happens by the way of life or Wu-Sabat.
Okay. Yeah, so that's precisely. So let me continue reading as I was saying. So within the human species, okay, every species has obviously the DNA and the other parts of their genome. Okay. So from verse 16, I read again. We Panataru, the overseers, have designated a genetic system. Yeah, so what we've done, we've designed, our overseers have designated, so they put aside a genetic system, okay? A scientific system of natural rules of nature. So can you, again, back to the audience, can you give me some natural rules that nature you're supposed to live by in accordance to natural nature? What are the natural rules? If you just think about your body. Okay, that's a natural rule. So you go to bed 8, etc. Wake up 8 hour cycles. Yeah, what's another natural rule?
Eat.
The times you eat. Yep, the times you eat. So you eat at a particular time so that it doesn't affect your assimilation and appropriation and digestion. Yep, so that's a natural rule. Anything else? It's all right. This is no time. I'm not gonna give you one question 1 to 9 tests or anything. These are just us exploring. So we need to start thinking what are the natural nature rules that we can apply to us.
Exercise.
What's that?
Exercise.
Exercise, yeah, that's another one. Anything else? What about meditation? Yeah, mindfulness. Yeah, so these are the natural rules of nature. You with me? And also there's other more like the chanting, prayers, etc. These are natural rules of nature. Not overly, because if some people do get tattoos, some people do get piercings. So, but when you start to overly do things, exaggerated, just what I'm saying, that's when it actually starts to impact on your genetic code. You see what I'm saying? And what Partner Babianun's explained is that as you go through the different vortexes, if you have too much metal in your body, you basically split apart because you got too much bodily attractions that your natural matrix cannot be read properly. So it actually affects your genetic code. You with me? Unnatural, I'll give you the unnatural stuff now. Dyeing your hair. When you dye your hair, the chemicals that seep in, natural nature will basically, or shall I say, it becomes unnatural because your matrix was trying to match that color. And you find some people who dye their hair, they start going more paler or lighter skin, if you ever noticed. You see what I'm saying? Because the body's trying to match what has been put into it was being put on them or in them. Does that make sense? Yeah. So there's certain things that nature would just say, do you know what? Your code isn't right. You with me? And you obviously you've got the bleaching, people now bleaching like heavily. I was watching something in Jamaica the other day. It's about couples asking each other out, and it just was like, what? And on there was, you could see the bleaching was on from one level to another. And I just thought to myself, man, I'm so happy and glad that we have Wu-Sabat, where it teaches that certain things about what we do and how it impacts on us, do you know what I mean, on the genome. So let me continue. So because natural rules of nature and they're on the outside of, sorry, start again. We, partner Thorough, the overseer, designate the genetic system, a scientific system of natural rules of nature, and they are on the outside of the natural rule, referring to the Mukasu, okay, the Adamites. But as I said, on the flip side, if you look at us now, we are now reversing. You see what I'm saying? We're downgrading ourselves to be in the image and likeness of the Mukasu. So this also applies into some of us, okay? A set of genetic principles to each creature of these species and entities to which all must submit, okay? So if you're a person that's living, you should really work towards allowing yourself to submit to these natural rules, because in that happening, you become more aligned with it. You become more in harmony with it, and being that you're in harmony with natural nature, there are certain things, abilities then start to happen within you, i.e. your mental intuition starts to become more heightened. Your ability to see into dreams becomes more heightened. There's just certain things that become more sharper. Your awareness, your cognitivity becomes more sharper. This is what happens when you're living in natural nature's rules, okay? Of your 24,000 chromosomes in your genomes, you always are using 24%. The other 76% is called jumping DNA. Who's ever heard of jumping DNA?
Jump.
You heard of junk DNA, but not jumping DNA. Okay. Jumping DNA, I'll explain, and it goes into, they're called known as transposons. Okay, so I'll go into, we'll just go online quickly and we'll look at jumping DNA. Okay, so this is just a brief explanation of what a jumping DNA is, also known as transposable elements. Are DNA sequences that can move within a genome. They can insert themselves into various locations, potentially disrupting genes and leading to mutations or even aiding in the evolution of new genetic variations. So it has two parts that it plays. Now, obviously, as what we're reading is that we being those of natural nature, anything that we're exposed to affects us. You understand? And it affects us to the negative, not the positive, unless we are practicing our natural way, unless we are doing the chants, unless we're speaking a language, etc. Okay? So in fact, so I'll read again. Of your 24,000 chromosomes in your genomes, you always are using 24%. The other 76% is jumping DNA and satellite DNA and are interfacing with the morphic field, beg your pardon. So you know what interface is, right? Okay, so you are literally have a connection to this morphic field. And that morphic field is the field of resonance of your ancestors, your relatives, your family lineage, etc. is in this field. So anything that you're learning or abusing, just I'm saying, in your morphic field is getting uploaded into this race species. Okay, and hence the title "You're Judged as a Species" is that I'm gonna just I see you. I'll invite you in a few minutes. Okay, it's that it can affect us and it can alter our genes. So in fact, are actively responding to alterations in your state of consciousness. So now you have to ask yourself, what is the state of consciousness of our race? When we're dressing the way we dress, when we're doing applying certain foods and chemicals to our bodies, etc. What is actually happening? What alterations is it taking place? Just what I'm saying. Because how's nature reading us ultimately? And if nature is reading us as a parasite or as a virus, what do you think nature is going to do? Just like I was saying earlier, what does the body do if it has a virus? It gets rid of it. It eliminates it. It sends its what we refer to as its white blood cells, corpuscles, TMB cells, etc., to eliminate the thing. Well, nature does it by tornadoes, landslides, famine, you name it. You know what I mean? Because that's what it does. It will literally wipe you off the planet using its army of, what would they call it? Army of soldiers of, I'm trying to find a word, to remove, basically, exterminators. Yeah, the army of exterminators will be hurricanes, floods, fires, you name it. And that's how it does. So natural disasters, thank you. So those natural disasters come in those forms because nature doesn't read you properly. So being judged as a species is part of that. You know, if we as a species do not unify and be on the right tone and vibration and frequency, this is what likely will happen to us. Okay, this is the extermination. So it's very important for us to be doing these classes so that we make people aware. It's very important for us to be gathering together so that we can all be on one. It's like when you say the word familiar, the word in there, you look at the essence of the word is family. You with me? Every species are familiar with each other, and we have to start learning to become familiar with ourselves again. Okay? Continuing. So I read from verse 19 again. So in fact, are actively responding to alterations in your state of consciousness. So if your state of consciousness is positive, these transposons and these satellites are working in your favor. If it's negative, it's deconstructing your DNA, it's changing it. Right. Your satellite DNA's ability to expand the number of repeating sequences means an increase in the outformation to your information earning capacity of DNA. So if you understand what DNA is a satellite thing. It actually is a transducer and a transponder. It receives and sends messages into the morphic field. Okay. So now if you compromise that, reason why many of us are not in alignment with natural nature is because we've compromised our genetic pool, our DNA. And in doing that, the outformation that we should be receiving, which will give us the right information to move in certain ways and to navigate this planet, is compromised. Does that make sense? Are there any questions so far? Okay. Yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
Let's explain the morphic field was it to do with connection to the
right. So
ancestors or...
the morphic field is where your thoughts and your consciousness reside. So you can actually be thinking something and it actually affects the morphic field. And the morphic field, the word morph means that it has the ability to change energy, just what I'm saying, to manifest in this realm.
Right.
That's the power that you have.
So we're downloading it from the galactic.
Exactly. Yeah. 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 Sorry, satellite. Yeah, go on.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. So I have a question in the classroom. Yeah.
So the satellite DNA, the
Mhm.
word satellite, because you know nowadays we're using that word more and more.
Yeah.
Which only came into effect like a few years. So this satellite has been around many generations.
Effectively, yeah. I mean, they never referred to as that word, but it's been around for millennia.
But we've we never used to say the word satellite, did we? We
No,
used to-
no,
Okay.
no.
All right.
No, that's just, it's a new word that's been coined. Yeah, yeah. Okay. So continuing. So you increase your satellite DNA's ability to expand the number of repeating sequences. So what it is that the genes, they repeat themselves over and over and over. What happens is when your genes are compromised because you're not living in your natural nature, it actually does the reverse. It doesn't sequence. Do you see what I'm saying? And it stays stagnant. And this is why you see our people in the state that they're in, where if they're not receiving the right affirmation, if they're not being guided probably by natural nature and the right reason, the sound right reason, you're stagnant or you start to act other than self. You act like a beast. You with me? Down to the point where when people used to be in prison, when they were in prison, they used to have their trousers. Do you know what the reason was that was for, right? The reason why their trousers was low. It was to do with homosexuality. That's right. But now it's a norm now to see brothers, especially brothers, yeah, or Nagaru. I wouldn't say brothers. I say Nagaru, yeah, now have their trousers way, way down. Exactly. So on a conscious level, this is what's taking place. I'll read it again. Yeah. So in fact, are actively responding to alterations in your state of consciousness. So it's altering your consciousness. You with me? Without you even being aware of it. Yeah, and this was happening to our brothers and sisters or Nagaru species. Yeah. So the job it gets is a hard job that we as Sabians or Wu-Sabat, by way of Dr. Malachi's joke, is doing. Because it's constantly changing. Every time the landscape shifts, when we think we've got it right, like our partner Tharu think, right, we've got our children, do you know what I mean? They begin to raise up in consciousness, then either Mukasu or something will happen where the Adamites will switch it up. They'll change a different way, and then in that, they put it into the mainstream, and then we pick it up, as Nagaru or other races or other species pick it up. You see what I'm saying? And it affects them as well. It's not just us as Nagaru, it affects every species. So they also have their judgment, just like we have our judgment. The Mukasu has already been judged. The Adam has already been judged because their judgment came up in the year 2000. It's just that what they've managed to do is that they managed to extend it each time. And the way they extend it is getting us to become out of sync with natural nature. You see what I'm saying? So they're proving to our ancestors or our creators that you see they can't form right. They can't work together. They can't be cohesive. And because they've managed to get us into their mind frame, their mind of thinking, which we call sixth ether. Do you know what I mean? So we got sixth ether consciousness as opposed to ninth ether consciousness. All right.
Can I just take a picture of that?
Yeah. Go ahead, man. Go ahead, yeah.
I don't want to forget what this is really good.
All right, no worries. So continue from verse 21. As a fractional antenna, okay, fractional antenna means that it divides. It's like a fractal. I'll show you what a fractal is. Have you got the picture?
Yeah.
Okay, right, so let me show you a fractal. You can get a fractal antenna. That's it. So what a fractal antenna does is it basically multiplies itself over and over and over and looks literally the same. Yeah, but it goes into smaller levels. So that's what your DNA is looking like. It's like fractional. So one piece, it repeats itself, as you can see. Yeah, it keeps repeating itself. And this all links back into the morphic field. That's what the fractal antenna does. Okay? So as you're walking, you're living and breathing transducer and the transponder. You're actually sending and receiving information. But like I said, majority of us are cut off because we're not in our right state of mind. Okay? as a fractional antenna, DNA interacts with the etheric of space, time, and vacuum, terms which are synonymous in this context with your zero time point of 0 point. Nashat energy, which interacts with your consciousness. Okay? So each race or species is in actual fact affected by the environment. Everything they're taught, believe, and accept. Everything they sharab, drink. Now you look at drinking, people are drinking. I mean, it used to be Red Bull. Red Bull was like, it gives you wings, right? So, yeah, so people caught on that phrase, and because it kept them awake because of the high caffeine content and many other chemicals that they've added in there. But now look at us as a species. Do you know what I mean? It's now drank like no, now there's different variations of Red Bull. There's ties like this, there's this, that, there's that. Do you know what I mean? Loads of different variations with different chemicals being added each time, you know? And if you start to realize now the reality that this is what's going on in your genetic pool, would you consciously be drinking these things? Would you consciously even attempt to even venture down this road of destruction? You wouldn't, because you're thinking about the greater picture, the bigger picture, that you're protecting your species. And in protecting your species, that judgment that will be coming on us, okay, is going to be less, or it will be minimal. Does that make sense? Okay, are there any questions before I continue? Online, Zoom, Clubhouse. Actually, there was a question on Clubhouse.
Sure.
But yeah,
Sure. Can I be heard?
You can be
Rahubat. Rahubat Zamal.
Rahubat.
My question is, what should this outmorphic field, what should it look like? You pointed out what it looks like, but what should, it look like in terms of, the scenario if we were doing all things all wise, right, and exact?
What should the morphic field look like?
Yes, I mean, if we were doing
it'll be okay. Imagine, okay, if you have a current of water, okay, that is moving in all different directions, you with me, and not flowing correctly. It's flowing in all different directions, and it needs to be then brought into, one point so that it flows harmoniously, okay, and meanders through the streams, as a stream. But as a torrent, if it's coming as a torrent and it's all haphazard, etc., and it's breaking down, twigs and branches, etc., you with me? It's coming at such a force, or it's become, or in another way, it's even stagnant, where there's no movement, and then it starts to actually die. Like stagnant water, if you leave it for a period of time, it starts to, build up bacteria and other forms of germs, etc., or even life that starts to exist in it. So in the sense of what it would look like is that you need a coherent as opposed to incoherent, form that deals with the natural harmony of natural nature. Does that make sense?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay.
And the necessary components to get us aligned back to where we need to be is doing more of the spiritual things, or do we have to do something other than?
No. What has been prescribed through Patarak and actual facts and the Master Secrets is what we should be doing. You with me? Because it's as the Master has taught, learning to turn yourself inside out and outside in. So what you put in your body, okay, and how you think, etc., and behave on the inside, and also controlling those 30 spirits and those other faculties. And now, obviously, if you put this into the dynamics, into the mix of where you have the Mukasu or the Adamites who constantly keep changing advertisements and the foods and drinks and all these different narcotics and carcinogens that they put into the atmosphere. Even the way they even breathing, because as the masters explained, that when it's time for a species time to go, they have to go. But we know that Mukasu, the Adamites, are trying to extend their life. They're trying to extend their telomeres, you see, and in doing that, one lecture that he gave many years ago, he gave an example of the polar bear or the panda, how the gases that the panda gives off, or certain creatures give off when it's time for them to be extinct. But because humans think that, oh, it's going extinct, we have to preserve it. We have to keep it alive. We have to keep it going, preserve it, from dying or being extinct. But they don't realize that it's time. Natural nature says it's time for that animal to go, because what's happening is those gases that are being emitted into the atmosphere is actually destroying or unbalancing the ecosystem, the ecology of the planet. That means that I'm breathing in a gas that is actually detrimental to my being. And if we go into the understanding the genomes and the genetic makeup of who we are, these Adamites are, like the masters explain, have become a disease to the planet. Is that understood?
Sure. So, as far as Patarak actual facts and master secrets is concerned, those steps should be, aligning ourselves, back, on FAC. Is that correct?
That's correct. 100%, 100%. FAC, learning the right tones, R, E, U. One of my brothers who always teaches about the tones, learning the correct tones. He's really emphasis on that. Hatui, Ray Hatat, he tries to show that when you're resonating on those proper tones, okay, you are linking in, you're interfacing with that morphic field. And what you have to realize, Partner Babyanun, he's not some guy who just came on the scene and just telling you to do these things. When you start to do your diligent research, you realize that when you're chanting and you're practicing certain things, you are actually changing your genetic structure to be in alignment with natural nature, and also lengthening your telomeres. Okay, so your telomeres actually grow in length when you're doing your chants, when you're doing meditation, etc. So when it starts to, when every time your cell divides, your telomeres actually, get shorter. Well, when you're chanting, you're practicing certain rituals, it actually can elongate, lengthen your life. But for the Mukasu, that's not the case. However, if you go into his unnatural way of living, that's what you're going to start doing to yourself. You're going to actually start destroying your telomeres. You're going to start making it shorter. But again, putting into the bigger picture, because we're linked as a species, if you understand what animism is about, an ontology, because we're linked as a species and we're uploading things into the morphic field, it also affects the species. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. I'm just going to go into Zoom and let's got questions on Zoom. Just stop sharing. Can I stop sharing? Does anyone still want to? Yeah.
When you said that it affects the species, are we talking about us as individuals affecting us as a race, or are you saying that it's us affecting the human race as a species?
Us as a species, you're judged as a species. So you're created in your genomic pattern as a species of people.
Oh, so we're talking about the race.
Yeah, we're talking about the race. When I say species, this is your actual race. You see, what the masters explain is that when you're talking about race, you're actually referring to species. Okay, and there's 9 species of Nagaru.
Oh.
Yeah. When you go into like the etheric levels, So you have nine, you got the etheric levels. Something's going on here with my screen. Yeah, so your etheric code, okay, through what Master Dr. Malaka has explained, is that you have 9 etheric levels. So we are 9 ether beings, and there's 9 species of us. Then you have 7 species of the Dravidian, and then you have 6 species of the Mukasu female through their etheric code. And then from that, you have the 5 species of the Mukasu male, and then you have the 3 species of the Mangalu or the Asian. Do you understand? And within that, you have your hybrids, okay, who fit between those species. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's making sense now you've broke it down like that. I've never heard it called species. I always heard it said like ether. The 9 ether, 10 ether.
So you got 9 ether, but 9 ether produces species, which we call race. You see what I'm saying? Because remember that term race only came about, it was coined by Europeans because of their hierarchy and trying to be in control and rule. So they coined the word race. So what Partner Babylon News explains was that we actually a species. You see what I'm saying? We're the human species or the Nagaru species, and you got the Mukasu species, etc.
Sure. I understand.
Okay, well, right. So just continuing. So everything they sharab drink, baru eat, yafuk breathe in. All, verse 25, all is affecting your state of akal mind and mukwan being. Your 24,000 genomes, and the 24% of them you use at all times. And the 76% that you have been chazuba, lied to, and told are not used, call by them junk, which is sadak, true for them, yet not for you, Nagaru Negroids. Seek out your own DNA salvation, which can only come by way of your own Salafu ancestors. Right, let me find the questions on chat.
Zamal, Rahubat, I have a question.
Okay, Rahubat, I saw.
Rahubat. So my question is, I know that you could be born with one spirit or more than just one.
Mm-hmm.
Until you perfect yourself. How would one know if they're vibrating with an XY chromosome or XYX chromosome? Because the gatekeepers are hermaphrodites and hermaphrodites, am I correct?
Yeah.
So in our culture, as we are now in this society, are there gatekeepers in the society and in our tribe? And how would one know that one is vibrating on different frequencies? Is it just a case of, I know it's not just a case of, I feel like a girl today, like, you know, how in the transgender thing, or I feel like a man. But so my question is, are there beings in the tribe, or is that are hermaphrodites and hermaphrodites, and how would one know that they're vibrating on them frequencies?
Well, I wouldn't know personally of any that in our tribe, or be guessing, should I say. I've noticed some, you with me, but I can't say whether they're resonating on the feminine frequency or the masculine frequency. It'd be wrong for me to say. But what the master's given are certain clues, like for instance, they're very heightened, just I'm saying, to certain colors. They're very heightened to certain spiritual or energies. You with me? So those, so those certain clues, okay, is what gives you an idea that they are potentially a gatekeeper. You see what I'm saying? But it's for them being amongst the family more and more, and the more they, do certain things or communicate with us of who they really are. So they have to let you kind of like know, you see what I'm saying? But the clues are there in that he's explained how they conduct themselves. You with me? Yeah, and then you kind of like you more or less will know that, oh, that's a hermaphrodite or that's a hermaphrodite. Do you see what I'm saying?
Okay,
Yeah.
Antakatira 4. regarding with our DNA, so I was reading in Man from Planet Risk that we have to program our DNA into a computer or the craft. What does that mean, and what does that mean to yourself and the tribe? Have you gone into any of that information, or?
From what I understand is that your DNA will be put into the me stones. Yeah, those me stones. If you read Dimensional Shift. Yeah, have you got Dimensional Shift?
The red me stones that relate to the
no. Yeah, you do. All of us have a Narad disk. Yeah, and that Narad disk is encoded with all your information, which can then be recalibrated when you pass through the wormhole, and depending on what station you're going to be taken to, or planet or environment you're going to be taken to, then you'll be reassembled back there. Does that make sense? Yeah, but you're actually, so when you're born, you have the zero time reference that starts off your disk, your own personal disk. Okay, yeah, so that's what takes place. So you can find more information in Dimensional Shift.
Dimensional Shift.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
And Takatira.
I've got a question, Zamal.
Wait, before you go to your questions, Zamal, can I just read the question? I've got a question from TJ.
Okay.
2 quick questions. How much does individual spiritual work affect collective consciousness, progression or regression? Individual spiritual work affects collective consciousness because we're all linked into the morphic field. Okay, and that morphic field is where thoughts, ideas, etc. are shaped within. So it's like like they call it now the cloud, where you upload your documents, pictures, ideas, etc. into the cloud, and then you can share it with others who can then access the cloud. Does that make sense? So because of that ability, you have that naturally where you can, as you're studying Wu-Sabat or you're studying anything that's to do with your positive upliftment or improvement, you're actually sending this into the morphic field. Yeah, so that affects the collective consciousness of those individuals or species. Yeah, so then an example was given with, as you know, they do the experiments in laboratory conditions. So they did it with a mouse, the first mouse, they put like a maze and the food was on the other side. And the maze, the mouse took X amount of time to get to the food. And then the next generation of mice, they found in less time. So the more and more generations that went on, they started to realize, hold on, we're not showing these animals anything. They're literally going through the maze, like with their eyes closed. Yeah. And they started to realize that there's a field of energy which these creatures or species or animals are tapping into, which is allowing them, which gets pre-encoded into their DNA. You see? So children will start, like the master explained, that children are going to get smarter. Yeah, and as we move into the new dimension, and if you notice, children are smarter. Do you know what I mean? They'll talk to you like they'll look at you like what? Do you know what I mean? They'll be cheeky to you. They'll tell you off. They'll correct you. Do you know what I mean? They'll be more standoffish. So they'll just point the finger, and say that man's got no clothes on. They'll do all kinds of things that we would tell like children, when we were younger, we would tell like don't point, don't do. But they're like, what? What do you mean I can't point? The guy's naked, you know what I mean? Or the guy's doing something. Or this man looks, I got my daughter, she's a classic example. She doesn't hold back her words. Do you know what I mean? What she sees is what she'll say, and you're like, so what part about tonight now when I reflect back on what he said many years ago, and I look at the outformation doctrine, how he's explaining that we're tapped into the morphic field. It makes sense now that what we're learning, children are getting smarter because every time we have a generation of children, they improve in their mental awareness and their consciousness. Okay, but like I said, there's always a flip side to that because we have within our race those who are going against the natural order of things, the natural rules of things. So it's a constant battle. And hence is it very important, as I said earlier, for us to keep pushing Wu-Sabat to the forefront of the world. Because the more of us as a species or as a race start to upload positive things and works and ideas, etc., into the morphic field, we then start becoming those supreme gods, you know, that we were meant to be or are meant to be. You know, and we start to take control of our lives, and natural nature will then embrace us as her mother. You know, right now, because we're unbalanced, the reason why a lot of things haven't happened catastrophe-wise is because our ancestors are looking at us at the moment and we're too close to the Mukasu. The Mukasu, his strategy is to keep us as close to him as possible. You see what I'm saying? It's like a target. You know when you watch these movies, right, where the guy will grab the guy and he'll cover him so while they're shooting, yeah, and they're shooting bullets at them, and then the other person dies. That's what's happening to us as Nagaru or other races, because they're dying. Being, you know, we've got what they call a mental uniform. We're in the armies, we're in the police force, we're in the judicial system, we're all of these, we're upholding their empire, and in doing that, we're like that shield. Do you see what I'm saying? So if Panatharu said we want to eliminate X amount, well, it's going to be hard, because what we don't realize is we are like the glue that makes this planet. It keeps the planet in fit formation, we as Nagaru. So if you remove us from the planet, this actual planet will go into a star holocaust. It will actually pull the rest of the other planets into the sun. This is how powerful we are. Do you see what I'm saying? But we don't realize these abilities or realize how much power we've got, you know? So I hope that makes sense, TJ. And the other questions, what actions would mark us as worthy of ascension or evolution? Two things that Masters always pushed and what we push: love and unity is made very paramount. But in the sense of ascension evolution, we have to come together in love and unity. Yeah, being even if you are, because we're going to be different satellites of us or different jurisdictions in different parts of the world. But if we come together in love and unity, who's ever watched Close Encounters of the Third Kind? Never watched it? Try and watch that show, because it's like people got this urge to go to a particular place, yeah, and gather together so that certain extraterrestrials will come and take them away. So what the master is saying is that if we don't gather together and our light, that beacon of energy, is not powerful enough, because they pass by, they come through this dimension every so often. And normally it's been 10 years. Yeah, so every 2003, 2013, etc., our ancestors, they come through the dimension into this dimensional realm, and then they collect their children. So we've missed many lifts. we've actually missed quite a few lifts. And up to the year 2030 or 2033 will be the last lift before they move away, because they work with cycles, you see. They don't interfere in the natural order of things. So this is the reason why when the time is right, they will send a warner. So the time was right in 1945 for a being to incarnate into the body of the master teacher, Dr. Malachi. The time was right for him to then set up these classes of lessons. The time was right for us to move from out formation. Even, in fact, we actually took too long in the religious schools. We should have been really developed as people now, do you know what I mean? And doing what we're supposed to do. But you know, we're given grace, as it were. Okay. So yeah, so that's what we have to do to be worthy, okay, is to raise our level of consciousness and come together. Very important, that togetherness. If you look at, again, going back to the animal kingdom as species, you're not going to see one zebra standing afar off while all of them are moving. You're not going to see a wildebeest, you know, one or two of them playing cards while the rest of them are saying, "Come on, we need to go." Yeah. So you see that there's a cohesion and harmony and togetherness, whether it's docile creatures or predators. Do you know what I mean? They move as a pack. Likewise, bees do it, animals do it when they migrate, birds, etc. We have to be in that same accordance in natural nature. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. Yes, Samantha. Yeah, well, I've got a question in the store, and then you can ask your question afterwards, Asal. Antakat, beautiful. Greetings, my brother. Okay.
When you ask the ancestors come and collect
Yeah.
their children,
Yeah.
in what way? And
Okay.
when they do collect them, what happens?
So Earth is up for judgment next. Yeah. The planet Earth is up for judgment next. And in many cultures prior to this current culture that we live in, you hear of people disappearing. And then that society was no longer there anymore. They just disappeared. Yeah. And what the masters explain that there are times when beings that were responsible for our existence, okay, they come and lift their children off the planet as while the planet goes through a cleansing. You with me? And right now we're in that cycle where we as a people have to be together, raise our level so that when they come, they're Ethereans. Okay, they're energy beings. So they don't have sockets of eyes and etc. They see you by your light. You see what I'm saying? And your light, when I say your light, I'm talking about your auric field. Yeah, so your auric field, this is the reason for all these practices, all the chanting, all the language, all the this, is because you're raising your auric field. Yeah, and another analogy that I can give, when you have a thermostat, okay, in a boiler. When the thermostat is very low, but when you turn on your taps, etc., the thermostat rises. It's a bit like that, where you have to raise your thermostat. Just what I'm saying, your pilot light is dim, or some of our pilot lights are dim. So in order to raise that pilot light so that it gets inflamed, just what I'm saying, to the point where you emitting an energy, and that energy will then emits into the morphic field, and exactly. It attracts, and they say, "Oh, those are our children," because we're emitting a certain frequency. You see, and then they can uplift it. So it's not a thing of, oh, they just come to one house, come to like Santa Claus, delivering presents. Do you know what I mean? They'll come to one place. That's a gather together, and that's what some empires and certain cultures did. If you hear about, for instance, the Maya, they call it the Maya civilization. But if you look into the word Maya, okay, it means illusion. And what the masters explain is that the native Indians, Americans, etc. The movie Stargate? It talks about Ra coming back to collect his children. So the master explained that was Alelu. He had created a certain amount of people and he removed them off the planet. That was the story of Stargate, the movie. Okay, so certain extraterrestrials, when there's going to be a catastrophe or a change in dimension, they prepare their children so that they can lift them off the planet so that it can start again. They can restart everything again. And this is what you read in your biblical story of Noah. When Noah was told to go and collect two by two animals, which it's not true. Do you get what I'm saying? But the example is there. The parallel example is that you have to become ready in order to be uplifted. But if we're not ready, the judgment will be on our species. Hence the title. Yeah. There's 9 species of Nagaru. Okay. The original 9 I can name, but not the ones currently because we've all mixed in. But the original 9 was known as the Asar, Ashashtat or Isis, Haru, Nuntat. So that's the 8 species. Let me find it for you.
When you say
Yeah.
So when you say the nine species,
Mm-hmm.
is there a hierarchy to that? So the first species would be, no, sorry, the second species would be better than the first species.
There's
The
an
third would be better than the
improvement.
second.
There's an improvement in your genes. Yeah, if you keep practicing certain things, you improving your genetics.
Basically,
Yeah.
are the species superior to each other? Yeah,
I won't say superior. I'll say just you're in your natural nature. You can look at it superior because I'll give an example. Jesse Owens, yeah, in the 1940s, he beat all the track and field, won all the track and field. So was he superior? Not really. He just doing what according to his genes, just what I'm saying, that looks superior to others, but that was natural to him. Just what I'm saying. So from a perspective of those who are inferior or have an inferiority complex, they see that as, oh, he's doing better, or he's greater than us. But really and truly, Jesse Owens would just be Jesse Owens. You know what I'm saying? He never walked around saying, I'm better than you. But because they've got a nature as the Adamu and the Mukasu, they've got a nature of competitiveness that was made and grafted into their genes by their creators, the Anunnaki. You see what I'm saying? Because they've got this competitiveness and warring mentality, everything has to be about competition. But now we've inherited those traits because they've mixed in with us. So now we're competitive. We're now wanting to usurp the other one, do better than the other one, etc. But really and truly, your natural nature is that you have higher abilities. You see what I'm saying? And they just have to learn to accept it, but they won't because of their inferiority complex. Yeah. So there was a question as well. Was that it? Sure, there's something else I was talking about. Oh yeah, I saw you have your question.
So my question is relating to, so you have celestial orders and terrestrial orders.
Mhm.
What's the difference between the two, and how would you know where you're aligned?
When you say terrestrial order, in what sense?
Okay, in a sense that with the supreme beings on the planet.
Okay, right. Okay, I'm with you. But when you're saying orders, you're talking about something like maybe an order of, let's just say, Freemasons. Is that what you're talking about? Something like that?
Talk about cosmic and planetary orders, like the orders of the planet and the order of those of
Well,
what they call
there's natural rules of nature, which is a form of order. That's what they call it, ma'at. So the ma'at order of things is that you live in accordance with your natural rules of nature. Yeah. So certain foods that you eat, just what I'm saying, certain practices that you do, how you look after it.
About Gadum.
Mm.
So better to ask it in a different way.
Yeah.
So how do you uphold the higher frequencies and realms of existence in life as a physical being living a spiritual existence?
By abstaining from certain practices, certain negative practices that you may have right now. You see what I'm saying? And this ties in back into your 30 spirits, learning to control all of them and learning to have that one voice that controls all of them, binding them so that they have no control over you, so that they have no control over your consciousness, etc. So yeah, you do have a lot going on because you got 30 spirits, and then you have the external aspect, which you have the Mukasu, the Adamite race, who are pumping in the media and broadcasting certain things which is affecting your psyche or your consciousness as well. So you have a lot of things that are at play which is affecting the way your morphic field, and also as we explained about the transposons and the satellite DNA, how it's changing your genes and etc. So it's not a straight cut black and white area. There's always gray areas because there's so much that you have to do to perfect your being and maintain, your natural way of life and living. Yeah, go ahead.
Have you heard of the Essenes, the Brahmic orders, and the Sufis?
Yes, I have. I've heard of the Essenes, Brahmic order and or Brahma order. Yeah, why?
What would be the difference between them, and what is the purpose of these orders on the planet?
Originally, these orders, especially the Sufi order, came from the ancient mystic of Melchizedek order, and the Essenes also branched from that. You with me? Like for instance, Yeshua, the real Messiah, the real Yeshua, he was he was part of the Essene order. And as you know, he was after the order of Melchizedek. Do you see what I'm saying? So those orders were orders that came from the intergalactic system of orders. Because as you know, Melchizedek was a high priest of the Most High, which would have been the Anunnaki Anu. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. So there was extraterrestrial or galactic orders that came to this planet, which was then became schools of learning. So, for instance, when you're saying Asar, Ha, Sakamta, etc., Shu, these were all different principles, and within those principles, there was orders within those principles. Like, for instance, you have the feminine order, the Hatat, you know, where certain rituals was done, you know what I mean, to receive their mafkhuzat, their gold, their liquid gold. Yeah. So there were certain orders that was practiced. Yeah.
How attacks about the thermal.
Antakathero for Zama. Tauta. Going back to Zoom, and then if there's any questions in the audience, I'll be happy to answer. Right, Rahubat, what was the satellite DNA called before? Okay, that satellite DNA going back to right, satellite DNA is a highly repetitive DNA sequence that form distinct bands during density gradient. Okay, that's just like big words, really. But really, essentially, it's what is referred to as junk DNA. Okay? But we, as the masters explain, that is junk to the Mukasu, but not to us. Yeah, go ahead.
This lesson is based on. I just need to get the name again.
Yeah, sure. So this lesson, as we're teaching, is based from the Master's Secret. Can that be seen? Yeah. All right. Tamkaz, Salvation.
Right.
Master's Secret. That's series number 14. This is here. Judgment upon the Adamites, Why No Help from Above, series number 4, Master's Secret. And the Master's Secret, Pashaja Shalil Haya, the Tree of Life, series number 17. Okay, so I haven't even actually gone into that yet, but that's there's a lot to unpack.
Yeah. With trans
Posons?
No.
Okay.
No, I was actually repeating that.
Okay.
So I got that now. When we transfer to when we pass on.
Yeah, sorry. Use your mic, please.
When we pass on, what reference in book would you say that elaborates on that particular thought, even though
okay. The spiritual you, the spiritual you,
yeah.
After the physical you dies, it's on the shop floor.
Yeah. The spiritual you.
Yeah, the spiritual you after the physical you dies. Yeah. And there's what's the other one? There is another one, but it escapes me. But that goes into the physical you after the spiritual dies.
The physical.
So the spiritual you after the physical.
Okay.
Master Secret.
You know what? I need to. I feel like buying it now.
But go right ahead.
Yeah. That's my.
Okay. Any other questions in the audience?
I've got a question, Samar.
Yeah, go ahead, Zamata.
When you was talking about the wormhole and the metals in our bodies.
Yes.
For example, if you've got a gold tooth, would that be problematic?
From what I remember, is the excess. It's the excess that you have. Some people go to the extreme. Okay.
Oh.
It's the extreme amount that you have. Okay. And certain body alterations can be repaired or changed by partner Tharu if you're worthy for the journey.
Gotcha. Because that gold thing always, it troubles me because I got gold tooth. It's a bit personal, but I've got gold tooth, and I
Yeah,
think
from what I remember, I could be corrected, but I'm pretty sure he explained is the extreme in the extreme. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because that affects your matrix. Do you see what I'm saying? Doing anything extreme affects your matrix. It affects your morphic field. You see, so you won't be they won't be able to recalibrate you properly when you on the other side.
Okay, so it's the extreme of the metals. What's inside of him?
The two examples the master gave was from the Philadelphia experiment when you had those people getting embedded into the ship's hull, etc. Okay, and the other one I'll give is, you know, when you watch like Star Trek and those things, and then they say beam me up, Scotty, and then they beam him up as light, and then their body is then reconfigured on the craft. You see what I'm saying? So any other excess things that they have, if that let's say a creature was after them and that creature jumped onto the ship, because their body matrix had been calibrated, if any other external thing went onto them, they would then be fused with that creature. You see what I'm saying? Because it's not the same matrix. Remember, that's why the master explained that in the further experiment, they needed a computer to calibrate your zero time reference. So anytime you were taken from one existence, okay, through the wormhole to another existence, your zero time reference was always calculated and calibrated. And that's something that they didn't have in the Philadelphia experiment, because people had a connection to love and, you know, an emotional connection. That's another factor they didn't take into thing. That's what the masters explained, that when you're being, if you are worthy to be taken, you shouldn't have any emotional ties. Because if you have an emotional tie, you with me, then you won't be prematurely born on the other side.
Yeah, that makes sense with the emotions.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you say excess, it's a guessing game. What excess is?
Yeah. You have one go to, and then you want to do it fashion, and then you put another one in, another one in.
No, back in the day, dentists used to put gold teeth in your mouth.
Yeah, but you can. I mean, I know dentistry is expensive because I just had my father-in-law get coined £5,000 for his. But if you want to change it, and for them to take it, I don't know how they can, but if they can take it out and have it replaced with something more natural, do you get what I'm saying? Then obviously it's better for you. But as far as I remember, like I said, I could stand corrected. And as student teachers, we're always learning or trying to remember something. That's why we have other student teachers moderating the classes. So if they're there and they correct me, then I stand up to it. But as far as I remember, if it's in the excess, having one or two, but even just want to look like 50 cents, then no. Do you get what I'm saying? Yeah. All right. I have a question. That's right. You're welcome. Hold on a second. I've got a question in the store. Bro.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So my question is, does the physical things you do have an impact on your spirit?
Most definitely, my brother. Most definitely. Positive or negative, it has an affection. Yeah, or an effect on you.
Just like how you said, just like how you're explaining excess metals within the body.
That's right, yeah.
Having excess or excessive metals in the body would then impact your spirit. Is that correct?
Not necessarily impact on your spirit, no.
Or I could say, let's say you ate too much. That's a physical thing.
That's right, yeah.
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 Would that eating too much, as an example,
yeah,
which would be eating too much of the wrong food.
That's right, yeah.
Would that not have an impact on your spirit?
Definitely.
All right.
Definitely, yeah.
So,
yeah.
So that ties into, if your ancestors are coming to pick you up as an example.
Right. If you speak up a bit more, so yeah, that's it.
So if your ancestors, just to tie it in with the ancestors coming to pick us up. yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If our spirit is not in line or
That's right.
in line with nature,
Yeah.
they wouldn't recognize
They wouldn't recognize who you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Precisely. This is why I was saying that nature reads your matrix. Just what I'm saying. Yeah. And because you've been read on a constant basis as a species or as a race of people, if we're unaligned with natural nature, you'll see you as a threat. Yeah. Okay.
So it's okay to tattoo, but not all great tattoos.
If you have one or two tattoos, yeah. But I'm just saying, for instance, most people that have come into Wu-Sabat have got those things on them. Do you know what I mean? Tattoos, etc. And what Wu-Sabat teaches is not that we're condemning you or that you're being judged because you or be looking at you and judging you, etc. It's about what the inner being. Do you see what I'm saying? Because ultimately, the real you is the inner being. All the physical aspects of you can be, repaired or corrected. Do you see what I'm saying? Even to the point where, from the 1995 onwards, the master explained that there's X amount of repairs that need to be done to us. Do you see what I'm saying? So as time was going on, cures were being found by different people, etc. And these were the repairs, because what partner Tharu will normally do, they will put the idea into the minds of certain people who are tapped into the mental reservoir. Do you understand? They put the idea, and then you can extract the idea, or you find that idea and you call it a eureka moment, or do you know what I mean? Or inspiration. Thank you. Yeah. And then from that inspiration, with your mind and how your brain works, you then start to put the pieces together. So for instance, the computer, yeah, and the iPad and all of these things was an idea by Parnatharu. They put it into the mental reservoir. And then, one of a Nagaru or other people picked it up. And then they started to design it. But how they designed it was based on the ones and zeros. You see what I'm saying? And the ones and zeros is very similar to how your DNA works. You see what I'm saying? Yeah, it works on ones and zeros, So just like how you have 10001, for instance, will make the letter A. Just in DNA, you have the GTCA. And those are letters that when they are paired together creates your guanine, cytosine, thymine, all the way down to proteins, etc. You see what I'm saying? So these are actually the same principle that is working. So the DNA of computers is the ones and zeros.
Is that why we use our thumb to go into, when we register on, on the PC?
Yeah. And now they're using
the phone.
The phone. Oh, yeah. Biometrics. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
To open up.
That's exactly, yeah. And then you still use your biometric fingerprint. That's linked to it. But I don't know the full extent. But it's definitely linked. Yeah.
Study computer science.
Oh, there you go. We got computer science in the house. So yeah. Yeah, there's like what it is there's if I'm correct, there's a hepatic, that's like a small electrical field.
So with
the
fingerprint, everyone has a unique.
That's right.
Fingerprint.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Like we're talking between ourselves. Yeah, if you raise your voice somehow. Sorry, just.
No problem. So basically with biometrics, referring to your fingerprint, everyone has a unique fingerprint. So when you register your fingerprint on any device, it creates the same way that your thumb is unique, it creates a unique code. So let's say I've got we have one device and there's multiple people using it. It would link the fingerprint, create a code for me. When I tap my finger on the device, it would recognize this is me.
Right.
Even somebody else taps their finger on
it recognize. Right.
On the same device, it
right.
will recognize it, because that's basically how it works.
Okay.
It's
a code.
Unique code.
Right. So that unique code go back to DNA then, really, isn't it? Yeah, exactly. All right. So I'll tell you that about. We have a computer sciences in the house, yeah. It's very good science. I like computer science, even though I ain't got a clue what it how you do things, but yeah, I love it. My son does it as well, so
Everything in IT is based on reality.
Mm.
Everything.
right.
Exactly how you was explaining it.
Yeah.
That's exactly how.
So you can see it.
Yeah.
Okay. So okay. We have Ed. Yeah, do you have a question? We have Rose online. Rose or Ed, do you want to say anything or ask a question?
Go back. I'll let the sister go first.
Okay. Such a gentleman you are. Rose, you have a question, Zamalta?
Yes, can you hear me?
Can be heard loud and clear, my sister.
Okay, thank you. Hi, hello everybody. Hi, sorry. I just was curious about the AI, but it kind of got answered just a little bit earlier.
Okay.
With the
Okay, with the computer science and the ones and zeros.
yeah.
Oh, well, wait.
Yeah, I just wanted to know how that was working, how we could use that, and the coding. And sister, she asked that question earlier too, because I was concerned about the people. Let's say people that have what do they call it? You know, the heart. They get a machine for their heart. I can't think of what it's called.
Or cardiogram?
A heart pacer.
A heart pacer, right. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Or press, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But even everybody's pretty much, we're kind of sort of on the same page with our questions, so I'm getting them answered already.
Oh, okay. Okay. That's okay. Most welcome. It's funny you say that. Can I be heard? Can I be heard?
Phone just closed on me.
Oh, okay.
Okay, yeah, those were pretty much the questions that I wanted to. But you didn't continue with the 9 types of theoretical beings. You were going
the
down
9 species, yeah, I was. Oh, thank you. Yes, I knew there was something that that's right. Yeah, there's 9 species, and there's so you have. Can I be heard? Can I be heard? Can I be heard?
You can hear me.
No, I can hear you. You do go in and out, but I can hear you. Can I be heard?
Yeah, you can be heard, but I think I have some problem with my phone because I did drop it and it broke the screen. So it's
no, you can be heard. You can be heard.
Yeah, those are basically the questions that I had. I mean, there's so many and
Yeah. Okay, so you have the 9 species. We'll start from, if I go into dimensional shift, it talks about the 9 species Nagaru. So you have Shu, okay? That's the original species, will be Shu or Shawao, Tefafnatat or Tefnut. You have Ashashtat, okay, or Isis. You have Osir or Cyrus. And then you have Nababtat Hatat, okay, that's Nephthys. You have Satak, which would be Seth or Set. Then you have Ha, okay? So they came as a duality in the form of dual principles, okay? And those species, original species, the last one to be born unique was Ha, okay, or Horus. And Horus is from that genealogy is where we are descended from. Okay, from that genealogy. Yeah. Now, when those genealogies then split and became your dynasties of ancient Egypt, etc., further down the line, those got dispersed due to the wars and the migrations and the invasions of different empires that came into ancient Africa or into Africa. And as these people dispersed and formed clans, they then moved and became your Songhai, your Mali, your Ghana, Timbuktu, etc., etc. Do you see what I'm saying? And then eventually those then settled into tribes and then became families, but all of them came from ancient Egypt by way of these 9 species. Does that make sense?
That would explain some of the theory, well, apparent theory of the so-called Black Americans that were originally there before the slave encounter, I guess, for better word. So that would explain the so-called Native Indians that were already there.
Yeah, I mean the native Africans who eventually became who mixed in with the Chinese and the Indians that came down from the Bering Strait. The Chinese, by way of a navigator called or emperor called Hu Shen. Okay, Hu Shen might, because when you have to look at the map that we look at, it's a flat map, it's a two-dimensional map. But if you get a globe and you look at the point from Japan to the point of North America or California, the distance is actually quite close. So they sailed the other way to come to California. And when they ended up in California, they met up with the original indigenous people that were residing there, and then they mixed in with them. So the original people were known as the Nubans. That was the people that were in ancient or in America or Atlantis at the time. Again, the word Atlan and Atlantis takes you back to an ancient word, okay, which was the word Utla. That was an Inca word that described when you have the Atlan or Utlan or the N at the end of it, it denotes a duality, meaning the upper and lower. So that would be South America and North America. And that Utla meant a vacation. So what was happening in ancient times when the land masses was closer, or the Guinea currents, we refer to as the Guinea currents, they used to sail over here, or before the continental drift, they walked over here and migrated over here and resided in various parts of, what is now called today America. Then this Atlan is when the Greeks picked it up, or when the Greeks studied in ancient Egypt, okay, under the masters, Plato being one of them, he then added the tus, the T-U-S, or the tis, and that then became Atlantis. You see what I'm saying? And so then that Atlantis was referring to North and South America. Now, the two tribes that came from that were the Olmecs, okay, and the Aztecs. The Aztecs were the children of the Olmecs. And then what happened was they became the became the native Indians, because they mixed in with the Indians that came from the Bering Strait. And the Bering Strait was a frozen piece of land. You can do your research how many years that area was frozen. From Canada all the way from Greenland, Canada, etc., was all frozen. So they actually made the migration down through Canada, okay, and down and mixed in with the Aztecs. Okay, mixed in with the Nubans to produce your Aztecs. And then as time went on, they mixed in with the Indians, and that produced your different Native Americans that you see today, or American Indians, as they refer to as. Okay, and then that became your tribe, your Sioux, your Shoshone, your this, your that, etc., etc. But the original word for them was Anasazi. Yeah, Anasazi.
Okay.
Okay. Wow. Yeah, there's a lot to unpack. All right.
Keep going on along. It's getting clearer and clearer and clearer. So I appreciate that. Thank you for your dedication.
You're most welcome, my sister. Ed, it's your turn. You're up next.
Let me see. So when I'm looking at the title and it says that we are going to be judged as a species, there has to be a criteria. Have you covered that already?
I'm covering it. I'm covering it as we're going through. But yeah, you're just as a species. I have been covering, what we do as a species. You see what I'm saying? In to be in alignment with natural nature, and also how it impacts us if we're out of sync with natural nature due to what's the influences of the Mukasu, in the Caucasian race and the Adamite race, how the influencing of their unnatural nature, because they've tied into our genes, and because of the things that they influence with, by way of what we were talking about the DNA and how your DNA is a satellite. So it receives and transmits information. And in it receiving and transmitting information, that affects your genetic what is known as transposons, okay, and satellite DNA, because what this does is it affects your consciousness. In that it affects your consciousness, you are now seeing things not in your own state of mind, but in somebody else's state of mind. So you act and behave unnaturally. Now, because of you behaving unnaturally, what will start to happen is that nature, it being able to read your natural matrix and your code, your matrix code, if it reads it incorrectly, nature sees you as a threat or as a parasite or as a virus. And just like how the Mukasu, the Adamites, are a virus, you now become a virus as a species. And then what nature has to do is remove you off the planet. So there's a twofold thing here happening. Partner Babyanun has come to help us regain our true way of life and our consciousness so that we can be realigned with natural nature and Partner Tharu, who are nature itself. You see? So yes, so I'm covering it as we go through.
This is, oh, hold on. I don't want to cut you off, brother. I didn't know if you were still.
No, it's all right. I've landed. I've landed. Yeah. Go on, my brother.
Yeah, it's good context because when they in conversation with somebody with their regarding the difference between natural and normal.
Okay.
And you know what I mean? Like what's natural, what you see is you see the more non-melanated people trying to hold on to what's more natural and then trying to make what's unnatural more normal for us.
That's right.
And understanding the genetic sequencing of that all as we move forward generation after generation, as you said, the mice were able to find their targets sooner, even without being able to see.
Exactly.
So they're basically, we're looking at this often as something that's just here and now, about but this is really something that has more to do with conditioning over several generations so that we can be at a deficit to where it'll take us too long to overcome it.
Precisely, exactly. And this is the reason why being judged as a species is very important, because we have this individual mentality born out of the fact that we are making things to seem normal. It's been normalized. Do you see what I'm saying? How we behave, how we act, the foods that we eat. You know what I mean? Now we're eating pizzas, we're ordering from Uber Eat and we just eat and things like that. Do you see what I'm saying? It's making us not natural where we go when we're walking, as opposed to when we finish eating, for instance, you're supposed to take a walk. You know what I mean? The times when you sleep, the times when you eat, it's making us, we're all guilty of it to some extent, don't get me wrong, because, you know what I mean, we're exposed to this on a daily basis, but it's having that ability then to have that discipline, to then start to wean yourself of it to the point where you're then acting in accordance with what nature has decreed for you, by way of Panatharu, your ancestors. Okay?
Sure. That's as I talk to different people, there's some people even within the group that I know that are very good people. And you know what I'm saying, they acquire things because of that. But a lot of this, everybody is gonna make up, I'm gonna get mine, you gotta get yours.
Exactly.
Because there was a time when money wasn't the thing.
That's right.
You still had to do, it actually was around much longer than this whole current monetary system. So this is fairly new in comparison. But when I have this conversation with people about, so for example, I know some really, really smart people, but then they'll go shooting for their dollar and they'll cut you short because of the dollar. I don't have a history. I don't have the history of doing that because I understand that's part of the problem. You know what I mean? So I understand that it's going to take a level of patience, diligence, maturity, wisdom, all of that in order to make $1 out of this 15-cent worth of effort. But everybody is not trying to maximize on that opportunity. And that's one of the risks that's providing the lack of advancement that we're seeing.
Yeah, very true. Very true. Very, very bold and true statement. Yep. I'm gonna jump if there's any other questions or any other comments. please feel free before I jump to the first. Yeah, Rohbat as well.
I've got one question.
Tua. Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear.
My question is, we're living in the West.
Mhm.
Back in the day, like 100 years ago, like entertainment used to be for free. For example, in England, medieval times, they used to get people to entertain and it was free. But fast forward to this day and age, we have people in our culture that they're giving money to entertainers, actors, celebrities. Is this part of the problem to live in this world? Because a lot of people think progression and elevation is monetary or being accepted in their culture or being a celebrity, but is this adverse to our upliftment?
Definitely, most definitely, because we see when the Adamite or Mukasu, from their gravitation, remember certain things was put in their genes, okay? And the things that was put in their genes or characteristics is the competitiveness, the warring, do you know what I mean? The seeking after riches. All of these things is part of the image and likeness of the Anunnaki and the Pleiadians. So it's not in our image and after our likeness. So we are, unnaturally, or now, like Ed said, we are the unnatural is beginning to look normal now. Just like when they show things on TV, like a disformed person who now is accepted, just what I'm saying, like as a normal thing. Do you know what I mean? They're making things that are unnatural look normal now, and it's been put into our subconscious, you know? But yeah, so that's all part of it. Our job has been emphasized and echoed from when we started doing Zoom classes and when the master teacher has been teaching from way back in the 70s. The simple solution is come together and love and unity. Love transcends all things because this is what you're made up of. And I'm gonna refer to if I can find it in what's it called? The Gospel of Yanun to the Sacred Feminine. Okay, let me just I can jump into right, Gospel Yanun to the Sacred Feminine. I can just read.
Yeah, I have one.
So David, I'm coming. Just let me find this, and then I haven't got assistance at the moment, so I'm trying to find something. Just bear with me, and then shouldn't take long. I know it's gonna go quiet for a bit, but if I can find it quickly. All right. Where are we? It's nearly there, almost there. But don't find in the next 10 seconds and don't start counting. It's in the next 10 seconds, I will yield. You can now start taking a question that comes to me. Where are you? Where are you? I was reading this. I thought this is really a powerful statement. Right, coming to it. Right. Okay. Nearly there, nearly there. Right. Right. When you look at each race of people, you can see the different features in each. Right, this one, the Gospel of Yanun, verse 792. I hope this then links into what I was going to read. This my gospel I record for my own race and tribe of United Nuwapian Nation of Yamasi Aboriginals of this planet, the first world people, verse 793. And we as Nagaru Negroes are all of the exact same feminine mother goddesses. Basically, scientifically and genetically, all individuals, species, and races of individuals on this planet called Earth and elsewhere. Yet here, the blacks 9 species, the browns 7 species, the yellows 3 species, the red and the pale white 6 species, Adamites and Edomites. When you look at each race of people, you can see the different features in each, such as the yellow races of 3 species, you see Asians, Orientals as Chinese, Korean, Japanese. Also, you can see this with each of the races if you know what to look for. And from the original and much mixing, now you have many mixed features. So in fact, all individuals of a race of people are the same, if natural in nature or of a kind. The word kind is a variant of the word kin, as in kindred and clan. Panagaru are not a kind, for you are the original. So Kapasu is called mankind. He is a kindred to the Dravadu, Southeast Indians, or the Browns, who are often black-skinned, yet with Farah fur, not Wabar hair. So that branch of their kind is called the Asiatic black man. Verse 805, yet from the brown man, Northeast Indian was grafted the red, white, pink, ruddy, rose, blush, flush, pale, who by curse became lepers with spots, or spotted, called Adamites, or Muadamu. First grafted in 4000 BC, made in the physical image of Par-Kamau the Pleiadians, who was allowed to dwell in Orion's north gate Aldebaran. Therefore, all persons of a race of individuals are relatives in some way by natural or unnatural nature. The immediate relatives are the Yasar family or those they are familiar with to become tribes, nations, countries, and the other relatives are the continuation of the ethnic race of the people. So in focus, they take on titles of the land they took over and live to pretend they're not all the same relatives. Gonna jump a bit. Right. Verse 819. Verse 820. What you are is what you claim to be after birth. Nuwapians, a race of person, each son or is one being, all of them, and each son, S-U-N or S-O-N or individual of it is truly a part of it. According to the relativity rules of natural as well as unnatural nature, any one person or individual of an ethnic race is only a part of the body of that race. Because absolute nature is the only whole being that can exist, since it's all. And the Nuwapians know this. Each race, Hazus, vibrates on their own frequency and wavelength. None are the exact same. Everything that affects one Salar race may not affect another. This includes light, Lawanat colors, and Sawut art, sounds. This is why each has their own Masak music and dress. All viruses affect each race in their own way too. Our taste buds are not the same. That's why we like different bara food. Our body temperature is not the same. That's why we like different climates. With that said, Nuwapians, know that nature will not affect us in the same way. Our ancestors or extraterrestrials are not the same, to each their own. You know our vibrational speed by our pigmentation, our rhythm by our pulse, our tone by our eardrum, which is the key of A flat, A major, A sharp, our body tone. And each race has a biorhythm, an inner clock of time, a bioclock that is tick, space, tock, ticking on to a set time of expiration. The same for each race, and every Puan animal, insect, and fish, as well as plants, have an appointed time. It's all a plan, extraterrestrial or plan ET. Planet Earth is an extraterrestrial plan, as are many other planets. Some life forms you would not recognize or even call life forms. The Gospel of Yanun on the feminine reveals the secrets of life, living, growth, growing, creating of this one universe and those in it. So each race was a project of extraterrestrials, what is called a master plan, and its time is running out. It will be a virus spread by the cursed genes. The evacuations failed for most. There's a flyby for Nagaru Negroes every 10 years, plus 3, 2003 to 2013 AD. That's when obviously it was written. In the past, some races made it, such as the Mayas and others not mentioned in history, which I was talking about. With that said, understand the importance of actual facts. Become one in Ashuk, divine love. Verse 845. The divine test of the humanoids or kindred are origin as well as relativity, unity, peace, cooperation. It must become an inheritance, participation, able to be identity recognized by natural nature. Pa Kakasu, the Salao, the Caucasoid race have already, as of the year 2000 AD, been proven to have completely failed to cooperate with other races on planet Earth. Number 24, the 24,000 genomes, the 24,000 year cycle, the 24 hours in a day, light and shadow hours. This is project number 24. You are participating in the master plan for your salvation. So in fact, the rules of kind and original relate and vows to this. If an individual transgresses, that is, breach or breaks a natural rule, does a wrong deed to self or someone else, and the transgressor, their self or themselves, does not account for the wicked evil transgression voluntarily, the penalty for the transgression, because of origin, affinity, relativity, all their inheritance are in fact participating, and it will fall upon their kindred, as in the case of the Caucasoid, the Kakasu right now. Any member or members of the Yasar family or ethnic race of the divine rules as a breaker, it affects the whole ethnic race. The 6,000 years of abuse by the seed of Adamites, Muadamu, has condemned them all to termination as the first race made, as the last race on earth. What is seen is as the genes weaken, so does the stable Akal mind and mentality regress back to a very primitive state of mind. The mind of take by force, which is inherited by crossbreeding with canine, simian, or porcine. The result intended to make a more physically stronger, robust worker resulted in a destructive, violent, carnivorous human beast. Okay? So, to put into a nutshell, if we're in their image and after their likeness and we behave like them, this is what we're going to become.
That's it.
That's it.
The judgment.
And the judgment will be on, exactly. That's the we're going to receive.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Robert?
Rahubat, David.
Please, I have a small question.
Yeah, go ahead.
There is this book called Commandment on Sexual Violation. On number 20, it says that the worst of them is violation when the lunar is full, having an effect on humans. And the worst of them is also violation when the lunar is hiding, an effect on the human bloodlusting nocturnal habits called the vampire. So, meaning, what's the effect on a full moon and on when the moon is hiding, when the moon is zero? It means it has effects. What's the effect on earthlings during that period?
Well, the lunar moon, okay, everything emits a form of gas. Okay, etheric gas. Yeah, gases. Etheric form. It's an etheric form of gas. It's not the gas that you would know like hydrogen and helium. This is an etheric form of negative ether that the moon emits. You follow? Now, that also can affect your mind, because when the gases, they become a form of spirit. You see the word inspire or respiratory, or when you're inhaling something, you're inhaling these etheric form of gas, not you per se, but that's the reason why people is the term is called lunatic, or in a lunatic state of mind, because the mind is affected by these gases. That's why when we say about 6 ether and 9 ether, 9 ether is the highest form of gaseous state. You see what I'm saying? Which deals with mental reasoning and your highest form of mental faculties. While 6 ether is the opposite of that. You know, it deals with what I mentioned here about destruction, violence, yeah, carnivorous, you know, mentality, warring, competitive. Does that make sense? So the lunar state, or what they call the lunatic, yeah, happens during a full moon. If you study the demography of like when there's a high spate of killings, etc., it's normally around this time when there's a lunar eclipse, or there's not, you know, like you said, the hiding of the moon. You with me? Because of the gases that emits to the planet, and people actually inhale these gases in the etheric state. Does that make sense?
So yeah, basically it means we should just be watching out for a full moon or 0-day moon. And during those periods, what should we do? What should
paying
we do?
attention to the cycles. No, you're right. What we should do is pay attention to the cycles. And what we always advocate is you should be studying, teaching, practicing self-love, practicing all these things are emitting the rays of 9 ether. You see what I'm saying? So when your countenance is low, always what's the word? Change the polarity, you know, so that your countenance is on a high positive note and frequency. Because in your mental state, what you do is you emit a gas, an etheric energy that goes into the form of gases. Does that make sense?
Okay, yeah. Does the master teach anything about looking at the moon?
Does he teach anything about looking at the moon? No, he hasn't, not that I'm familiar with, to look at the moon. Where some people, so really and truly, our thing should be sun. What we have the ability to do, we can convert 6 ether into 9 ether. That's what we have the ability to do. But you have to be on that frequency and vibration in order to do that. Because if you are operating off of 6 ether, do you know what I'm saying, which is the ghost or gaseous state, your mental state is not conducive enough to convert the 6 ether into 9 ether. But if you're operating off of 9 ether on a constant daily basis, you can actually convert that into a positive thing. You have the ability to do that. But you have to be conscious, and that's from, you see, Wu-Sabat, right, is a doctrine where it's do it yourself. It's a do it yourself doctrine. It's not, you know, going to church and having a preacher to preach to you about God's perfect word. What we're teaching, what Wu-Sabat is doing is making you a part of the process of natural nature so that you will learn for yourself. Do you see what I'm saying? And in learning for yourself, you now know. Many people, you know what I mean, when it's like how are you going to pass a degree in university? Are you just going to go to university and sit in your dorm room and not do anything? You go to your lectures. Yeah, if you're an avid student, you know what I mean? You go to your lectures, you listen to the podcast, you do your modules, you do background reading, you do all of these things to prepare you for your exams or your theses or whatever you're going to write. Am I wrong? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then you get your first class if that's what you're aiming for. You with me? So likewise with Wu-Sabat. Wu-Sabat is a doctrine where you will apply what you're learning to your life. In doing that, you're now changing the forces that's in you and converting them to more 9 ether. Because when your mind is awoken to 9 ether, it opens the portals for your ancestors to operate through you. So what the master said, 9 ether visits the children or its posterity, okay, its descendancy when the mind is right. If your mind is right, your ancestors will just look on. It's not that they left you alone or they just can't help you because you haven't opened that access to them.
Okay, a quick question. If, because I relate with all kinds of people, then what should I tell probably a Christian or some of my family members they're still Christian, what should I tell them that they should be doing on a full moon or on a
They should be
zero moon?
studying. They should be studying and looking to improve themselves on a constant basis. That way, their energy and the
they should be studying the Bible, because they'll study what they know.
Yeah,
Because
but then this is your job, okay, to be the best example. If you have Patarak or actual facts around you, live it. Don't get me wrong. You're not going to convert, or this is not about conversion. You're not going to make them do anything other than what they know. But what you're going to do is set examples. You see what I'm saying? Drop some seeds of information for them to think about. It may not happen straight away, just like how a tree or a plant doesn't grow immediately. You have to nurture it. You have to go back and look at the soil, check the soil. You have to look at this is I'm telling you, this is how natural nature works. So when you look at the soil and you give it the right conditions, the right amount of sunlight, you see what I'm saying? If it's not growing in this, take it to a shade or etc. and watering it right. These are the things that Wu-Sabat teaches. And the more and eventually you get it to perfection. And when your relatives are looking at your actions, yeah, they have to be saying what you're doing. You see what I'm saying? You can't be saying one thing and then doing another, because they're saying, well, I know you from back then when you used to maybe curse and smoke or party and etc. Now you think you're this Mr. Saint Holy Man. Do you know what I mean? You have to set those things in motion and be dedicated to it. You with me?
Yes.
They watch you all the time. You think they're not watching you, subconsciously they're watching you. they know what because they know the old you. Now you're trying to be the new you. They're still thinking you have to show them where they have no doubt that this guy has really changed.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome, David.
Sorry.
Yeah, so just in class, in the store. You go ahead, my brother.
Yeah, I was just thinking about the question the brother said about the moon.
Yeah.
So from my experience, when the sun is in the sky, I feel energetic. Or to summarize it, I feel inspired to do action.
Okay.
When the sun, let's say the clouds, we're in the UK, right? So
that's right. Yeah, plenty of cloud.
For those who don't know,
yeah,
they block the sun.
That's right. Yeah, they got their new thing. Yeah.
So when it's cloudy now,
yeah,
I feel the opposite. You understand? Because what's the clouds doing? It's reflecting the sun.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I feel the opposite. I feel demotivated. You know, so I don't feel inspired. I feel like, you know what I mean, just to stay. There's a feeling you get.
Stay inside.
Stay inside.
That's right.
It's the same experience on a full moon.
Yeah.
What does the moon do? It reflects the sun.
That's right.
So during that time period, everyone is reacting. The reaction energy, which is the opposite to action, is heightened. So let's say something small on a normal day wouldn't affect you.
Yeah.
But during the full moon, you would feel more affected by that negative action. And then people, you know, react irrationally. And that's what causes the height of what you said, like crimes and things like that.
Yeah.
It's because people are reacting to things. Because, as you described and explained, during a full moon, those 6 ether energies is heightened.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when the sun is up, it's the opposite.
That's right.
It's the 9 ether energy that's heightened. That's what gives
truth is truth. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Just when
no.
It's just pondering on it. I just think.
Yeah. Good. Good. So again for your input about appreciate it. Right. There's a few questions on Zoom. Right. It's how are beings on higher planes of existence? Let me just go to Clubhouse if there's anything else on Clubhouse. Right. How are beings on higher planes of existence judged? I'll be wrong to answer that question. I honestly don't know how they'll be judged. What we told is that if you work your way, to a higher state of existence, okay, you have work to do because it doesn't just end there. You know what I mean? When you like transition, that's just the first stage of you going through an orientation or journey. And that journey kind of carries on because your soul is here to learn. Your soul is a learning vehicle. It doesn't just stop at one stage and then that's it. So as you move on higher to higher planes of existence, your judgment will be different to what it is here on this planet. But it essentially is a universal cohesion. You have to be with your galactical brothers and sisters working on keeping the universe in fit form and harmony. That's what your job is as an Ethereum. So I hope that answers a little bit of it, but the master, as far as I'm aware, hasn't really gone into when you're on a higher plane of existence, how you be judged. There's a next question here, Patarak, the planet Earth is a woman. The question is how the human beast conception happened. They were grafted, they weren't conceived as such. It was more of a genetic experiment that went on. Conception in one stage that they were used embryos from Pleiadian women. If I don't know if you've got the holy tablets, which actually touches in more into that, but essentially they were Pleiadian women. This is where you get your seven sisters or Pleiades, etc. from. So these Pleiadian women were used in the birthing process that Mother Ninti chose. So Ninhursag is another name for Mother Ninti. Okay, you go into that. Question, is it correct to say that the other languages on the planet are resulting from speaking or genetic deficiencies? Are other planets, languages on the planet are resulting from speaking? Yes, the other languages stem from the original language which was on the planet, which we now speak in, is known as Mislatia. Okay, so these languages then diversified into other forms, into other forms and dialects, etc. through the age. You can find that in Patarak, speaking in tongues, if you want to know more about the languages. Yeah, speaking in tongues. Next one, what's the difference between human beings and being human? Oh, good question. That's an interesting one. Being human beings, I guess, is the state of consciousness, okay? And one is your physiological part of you as a human being. Do you know what I mean? That's being as an existence in your physiological existence. That's human being. And being a human is your consciousness level, because then it's how you operate, as in helping and be more considerate and loving and kind, etc. That's being a human. And then you can take that higher to becoming a god, because then what God is that God is anyone or anything that's in control and is responsible for their actions. So that's what God becomes from being a human being. So we've got levels that the master explained. You can come all the way down to a what is referred to as a human beast, all the way down to what is known as a demon. Yeah, so there's different stages. So demonic down to being to human being to being a supreme being. Okay, so those are the levels that you have to attain. Okay, so that's genetic deficiencies is more born by the gravitation of these Mukasu or the Adamite race when they were genetically grafted. So they have a lot of genetic deficiencies. In fact, just read it here. Right, so one of the genetic deficiencies is leprosy, which they inherited. When you read the designer genes, that's another part, actual Master Secrets. that goes into a lot of the deficiencies that they have. It's called this designer genes master secret. But I'm going to read something from here because I'm conscious that I'll be told it's got literally, 7 minutes. So, the white race of Adamites is only 6,000 years old. This is again coming from, we didn't cover the rest of the other books, unfortunately, but there's a lot in here. It's called Tamkaz, Salvation, the Master Secret, series number 14. Okay, so verse 40, the white race of Adamites is only 6,000 years old. And with them came sickness, disease, by them raping other Salalu races of people, not the same as them, but the rules of natural nature. You, as the Sayim Salal divine race, the Ba'ak Salal supreme race, Power Salal, the first race, are now unaligned, untuned, and out of sync. Verse 42, you must be realigned and retune the closed Sarat etheric cord like a straw that has collapsed and must be reopened for the flow of your divine Sacham Wu Kawoi power and strength. Okay, so just if you're wondering what is this etheric cord, you have a filament of cord, okay, known as the etheric cord or the etheric code. And that code is linked to the ether or the mental reservoir, okay, where you can actually get massive downloads or information. But this actual code or cord has, like a straw, has collapsed and must be reopened for the flow of your divine power and strength. Verse 43, your Salafu ancestors wait on you to reopen the straw like redialing a correct phone number. And earlier, as I was saying, when we do the chant, we open up, I always say, we get on that phone number and call our ancestors. And they pick up from the other side, and then your prayers are heard. Verse 44, now is your salvation, time to remind yourself. I, Partner Bab Yanun, have come with the right Masak music notes, the right key, the right tone, or the new song, which is known as Nisbatia. Okay? When the Mujwawu Jews chant in Habaruyi, Hebrew, their own books, that is their own songs. When the Muksasu Christians sing hymns in Greek, Latin, or English from their own books, those are their own songs. When the Muslims chant in Arabic from their own book, that is their own song. Their Ghanai songs, Ranam chants in their own Lahaj languages, in their own Hazab art culture, rhythms, their own physical Sawat art voices vibrating from their own vocal cords, their membranous folds in the larynx that Hazuz vibrate to produce voice sounds. Verse 50, and up until very recent, you could clearly tell a white man's Sawat voice from a black man's voice. Only after the past 400 years, from the 1600s, with so much mixing, race mixing, do Hamem, Samat Zazaz, black men, song now get mixed up with the white man's voices. Verse 42, yet natural nature made the separation in the human Sanafo species, and humans violated that rule. So our race must separate and become retuned in our own original physical stature and voice, that we may sing our own song in our own Lahaj language, Nawapik. Until then, we will remain unaligned with self, kin, and kind, and even act like other than self and kin and kind. We become a kind of man, becoming a beast, and heathen like Adamu, Natat, Adamite seeds. Many from among you echo statements, Ranoy sing, Ranab chants, the Ghanay songs of the counterfeiters, and Sadok trust the deception of the deceiving race of Mudwawu devils. As a result, you have ended up being his slaves, oppressed, confused, without kayas reasoning. I hope that was enough there to soak in and contemplate on. unfortunately, I'm not going to get to all these questions as I'm very, very conscious of the time now. Where is the Southeast Gate geographically located? Okay, that is an Orion's belt, if that's what we're referring to. If you go to Orion and you look at the Orion's belt and follow the southeast going, that'll be the Southeast Gate. Okay, so it's literally a docking point where extraterrestrials will seek haven or seek safety. Was that Southeast Gate? Okay. Which betrayal are these verses talking about? Okay, I have to go to the Holy Tablets 133, 134 to read that. Verse 171. How can a woman bring about the best of men? Oh gosh, that's a big question. But you can find that in the Gospel of Yanun, to the sacred feminine. Let me see if I can quickly. Oh gosh, this is. Somebody was just about to say something there. Robert. Okay. So I can find the Gospel of Yanun pertaining to that what you just said, what you just asked. What was the question now? How can a woman bring out the best of men? Right, so let's go to right. I just read this out quickly. What are the scientific facts? How can a woman accept such foolishness if you're not under a hypnotic form of religious ignorance by blinding faith and false belief that says that by males, believe me, don't check it out. This gospel of the sacred feminine says it is time for you to wake up. Break the spell of ignorance about your true feminine natural nature as other of all living. You are to be worshipped. You are to be adored. You are to be admired. You are to be esteemed. You are to be revered. You are to be extolled. You are to be venerated. You are to be appreciated. You are to be lauded. You are the mother of both mothers and fathers. I hope that answers the question.
Could you read that again, please?
Yeah, I thought you might want to hear that again. Okay, I'll read it again. Right. It says the question was, what's the how can a woman bring about the best of men? Okay. And from the Gospel of Yanun to the Sacred Feminine, verse 1096 on page 130. Break the spell of ignorance about your true feminine natural nature as other of all living. Or when you say other, you're saying mother. You are to be worshipped. You are to be adored. You are to be admired. You are to be esteemed. You are to be revered. You are to be extolled. You are to be venerated. You are to be appreciated. You are to be lauded. You are the mother of both mothers and fathers. So if a man can recognize that, then he's got good stead.
Okay.
That's a good way to end.
Yes, I think we'll end it there, don't you? Nadon Moisar, I wasn't able to read everything. I did want to read. I know that was the end and that was a good closing. But there was something I wanted to read from an update regarding species. And it might echo actually. Let's find. Did want to read this, but if it echoes the same thing which I was reading, then we might skip it. But right. Right. All insects that buzz vibrate on C. Now there's a shift from C to C major or C major, C minor. Many species, last bit. Many species are dying off. In the year 2000, the frequency of Earth changed. if you shoot up ahead, that has an effect on the ecology of the planet. There are 3 root races that are sanctioned for the planet. Now, because of intermarrying, there are too many hybrids on the planet who are not in alignment with natural nature. So, as they are breathing, they are not part of natural nature and are excreting poisons. So, for instance, the panda bear is supposed to be extinct according to natural nature, yet because the Mukasu wants to play God, they're prolonging its existence. According to natural nature, they're not supposed to exist. So their very prolonged existence has an effect on the ecology of the planet. Yeah, so I read that already, but we'll wrap it up there before I get told off by the security and the brothers. All right. I'd like to say Taukum Laheyatwe Pa Kayat. Thank you for coming to the class. Thank you for your participation and your interaction. It was really appreciated. I apologize for not coming and sort of answering all the questions online. It was quite a bit, but I hope the class was stimulating, thought-provoking, and now you realize that we are our one species of Nagaru. I mean, even though there's 9 of us, we're one being. Okay, and we have to work towards changing the ecology of the planet, because if we're in a natural state, we start to emit those gases and those excrete those poisons into natural nature's environment and ecology. Taukum Uwadu Moisar.